Welcome to iknowpeople.biz, conversation that connect, bridging the decision gap, where trust meets opportunity.
Okay, so I want you to picture a sound. It's a very specific notification sound on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's, say, 4:00 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. You are under contract on a house. Maybe it's your very first home, the one you've been saving for like 5 years.
The stakes are high.
Or maybe it's an investment property you're trying to flip before the market turns. You're stressed, you're waiting, and then ping, it's an email. The subject line reads, "Inspection report attached."
Oh, the heart drop moment. I think anyone who has ever bought property knows that exact feeling.
It's instant anxiety, right? Because you know that what is inside that PDF isn't just a list of facts about a building.
No.
It feels like a list of reasons why your dream is about to become, a total nightmare. It feels like a deal killer sitting right there in your inbox.
At least that's how it feels. And that distinction, between what it feels like and what it actually is, that is exactly what we are going to get into today.
We are doing a deep dive into the Liaison Deal Desk series methodology. We've got a stack of sources here that look at how these high-stakes real estate deals actually function, or, well, fail, both technically and psychologically.
And the headline from all this research is a bit counterintuitive.
It is. It says, "Inspections don't kill deals. Confusion kills deals."
It sounds like a bumper sticker, doesn't it? But when you really dig into the source material, it's actually a profound observation about how we make decisions.
How so?
Well, we tend to blame the physical thing, the cracked slab, the old wiring, the termites, for the deal falling apart. But this methodology argues that the deal usually survives the information. The house is still standing, after all. What the deal cannot survive is the chaos that happens inside the human brain immediately after receiving that information.
And we're diving into this concept they call bridging the decision gap. And I want to be clear for everyone listening, this isn't just about real estate. This is about how we process high-stakes data under, extreme time pressure.
Yep.
But we are going to use the real estate inspection as our laboratory today because, honestly, I don't think there is a more stressful document in the modern world than a 100-page home inspection report.
It is the perfect storm for cognitive overload. You have huge financial stakes, probably the biggest check you'll ever write.
Mm-hmm.
You have a really rigid deadline, usually an inspection window of 5 to 10 days.
So the clock is ticking.
And you have a document written in a language that looks like English, but reads like a liability waiver mixed with an instruction manual for a nuclear submarine.
So let's start there with that document. The source material refers to this period, the time between getting that email and, figuring out what to do, as the decision gap.
Right.
It's the void between having the data and knowing what on earth to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this gap so dangerous? We live in the age of big data. Usually we think more information equals better decisions.
That is the great fallacy of the information age.
Right. If I have more data points, I should be smarter.
Well, the sources here, they cite research on choice overload. Think about that famous jam experiment from consumer psychology.
Oh, yeah, I know this one.
You put out 6 jams in a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
People taste them, and they buy jam. Simple. But you put out 24 jams.
And people just freeze.
They get overwhelmed, they freeze up, and they buy nothing.
Paralysis by analysis.
Exactly. Now, take that dynamic and apply it to a house. You don't just have 24 jams. You have 150 line items in a report.
Mm-hmm.
Some are critical safety hazards. Some are just a loose cabinet handle or, peeling paint.
But to the untrained eye, especially when you're nervous, they all look like problems. They all look like giant red flags. And that's where the paralysis kicks in. I remember looking at an inspection report once, and there was a note about reverse polarity on an outlet right next to a note about organic growth in the attic.
And to you, they both
sounded like burn the house down immediately.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't tell you which one was worse.
And that is the core friction. The inspector's job, and this is so important to understand, is to produce a technical inventory of observed conditions.
That's their legal mandate.
That's it. Their job is not to prioritize.
Yeah.
Their job is not to tell you if the house is a good deal. It's just to document the condition of that asset at one specific moment in time.
So they're creating a snapshot, a very detailed, very scary snapshot.
But the buyer or the investor, they don't need a snapshot. They need a roadmap.
Yes.
And that disconnect creates what the liaison framework calls noise. When every line item feels equally urgent, you totally lose the ability to negotiate effectively.
Oh, you see this all the time. A buyer will demand the seller fix a, $50 loose railing because they can see it and understand it.
It's tangible.
But they'll completely miss the fact that the HVAC system is 20 years old and on its last legs because the report just said unit functional.
Because HVAC heat exchanger limits sounds abstract. So the negotiation becomes about the noise, not the strategy. The buyer burns all their goodwill fighting over minor things and leaves the major financial risks on the table.
So let's look at the players in this drama because the source material breaks down the stakeholder needs in a way I found really, really insightful. We assume everyone in the deal wants the same thing, a good house.
But that's not really true, is it? The motivations are completely different.
Miles apart.
Yeah, take the first-time buyer. Their main driver isn't profit, it's fear.
The money pit fear. That, am I buying a mistake that will ruin my life feeling?
Right. So when they see maintenance required, their brain translates that to financial ruin. They need reassurance. They need to feel safe.
Okay, now pivot to the investor. Do they care about a scuffed wall or a slightly uneven floor?
No. They care about the math.
Exactly.
Exacta racing against the clock. They need underwriting clarity. They need to know, does the cost of these repairs completely break my profit margin? If the answer is no, they move. If yes, they bail.
There's no emotional attachment.
None. They have a spreadsheet to fill. They just need the numbers to be right so they can make a quick go or no-go call.
And then stop right in the middle, sweating bullets, is the real estate agent.
The agent is in such a tough spot. They have a fiduciary duty, a legal obligation to protect their client. They can't just hide the defects.
Of course not.
But they also don't get paid unless the deal closes. So they are trying to navigate this minefield of defects without blowing up the transaction, all while trying to keep the buyer calm and the seller reasonable.
And there's another concept in the notes here that really stood out, and I think this is something we just don't talk about enough. It's called sales funnel fear.
Oh, this is huge. And it's subconscious for most people.
Explain that.
Okay, imagine you're that nervous buyer, you find a crack in the foundation, you are terrified. Then someone, maybe the agent, maybe a contractor they know, hands you a card and says, "Don't worry, my guy can fix that for $5,000. Just sign here."
Right. And immediately, my guard goes way up. I'm thinking, are you giving me advice because it's true, or are you trying to sell me a foundation repair?
Exactly. The moment the advice feels like a sales pitch, trust just evaporates. It's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
The person diagnosing the illness shouldn't be the one selling you the pills.
You need a separation of duties.
You need it to maintain credibility. If I think you're trying to monetize my problem, I stop believing you about how bad the problem even is.
Okay, so we have a messy situation. A technical document that creates panic, stakeholders with totally different needs, and this baseline lack of trust. So the liaison methodology proposes a solution. They call them confusion killers.
Right, and there are 5 of them. And these aren't just abstract ideas, they're actual workflow steps designed to cut through all that fog.
Let's walk through them. Number 1 is moving from information to a decision path. This involves something called post-inspection translation, or PIT.
PIT is the bridge. It's taking that raw data, that technical inventory, and translating it into a readable roadmap. And the main tool they use here is the Inspection Clarity Report, or ICR.
Okay, help me visualize an ICR. How is this different from the summary page the inspector gives you?
Think of it more like a filter, but one based on transaction logic. The inspector gives you the raw feed of everything. The ICR applies logic to it. So it specifically highlights things like lender flags and insurance flags.
So things that would literally stop the bank from giving me the money.
Precisely. A bank doesn't care about a squeaky floorboard. They generally don't care about cosmetic stuff. But they care deeply if the roof has less than 3 years of life left. They care if there's no handrail on a high staircase, or if there's peeling paint in a home built before 1978. The ICR stripped away all the preferences and focuses only on the transaction stoppers.
That seems like it would lower the temperature in the room immediately. You stop arguing about ugly and start discussing fundable.
It grounds the deal in reality. If the bank won't lend on it, well, we have to fix it. There's no argument. Which leads perfectly to the second confusion killer, moving from noise to negotiation clarity.
This is specifically for the real estate agent, right? To help them out.
It is. The agent needs negotiation-ready language. They have to be able to distinguish between a leverage item and just maintenance noise.
Give me a concrete example. What's noise and what's leverage?
Okay, so maintenance noise is, the water heater is 12 years old. It works, but it's old. That is not a defect. That is a used house. You don't get a discount just because the house isn't brand new.
Okay.
A leverage item is the water heater is backdrafting carbon monoxide into the garage because the flue is installed wrong.
So one is an inconvenience?
And the other is a serious safety hazard and a code violation.
Got it.
So if an agent goes to the seller and says, we want $1,000 because the water heater is old, the seller says no. That's just noise. But if they say, we need a concession because this unit is a safety hazard and an insurance liability, that is defensible.
It gives them a defensible story.
Exactly. It stops them from asking for everything and getting nothing. It preserves their negotiation capital for the things that actually matter.
Now, number 3. This is the one I think is most valuable for listeners who might be in this situation right now. Moving from fear to planning level cost exposure.
This is maybe the most misunderstood part of the whole process, and it causes so much stress. When a buyer sees a defect, let's say some rot on a windowsill, what is the very first question they ask?
How much is this going to cost me?
Right. And what do they usually do next? They scramble to get a contractor out there to give them a bid.
Which is a complete nightmare during a 5-day inspection period. Good luck getting a plumber to show up on Tuesday at 2 p.m. just to give you a free estimate. They're busy.
It's nearly impossible. And even if they do show up, that bid is biased. They want the job. Or worse, the buyer asks their uncle, who knows a bit about construction, and he just guesses a number that's totally wrong.
So what's the alternative?
The liaison approach uses planning level cost exposure. These are ranges. They are not bids.
What does that look like on paper?
So instead of saying this will cost exactly $4,320.50, the report says, based on regional market data, this type of repair typically falls between, say, $3,500 and $5,000.
Why is the range better? Don't people want certainty?
They think they want certainty, but what they actually need is to understand the financial shape of the problem. They need to know the order of magnitude. Is this a $500 problem, a $5,000 problem, or a $50,000 problem?
Ah, I see.
You don't need the penny-perfect number to make the decision to buy the house. You just need to know if the risk fits inside your budget.
It bounds the risk. It stops you from catastrophizing. I've seen buyers walk away from a house because they imagined a roof repair would cost $30,000, when in reality it was a $2,000 patch job.
That is exactly what this Repair Reality Review, the RRR, is designed to prevent. It stops good deals from dying because of imaginary costs, and it stops bad deals from closing because a buyer underestimated the cost.
Okay, so we have translation, we have negotiation filtering, and we have cost ranging. Number 4 is moving from deadline pressure to a repeatable workflow. This sounds a bit corporate.
It sounds boring, but boring is what saves you when the clock is ticking.
Because panic is not a strategy.
Exactly. If you are an agent or an investor and you're reinventing your process every single time you get a report, you are going to make mistakes. You'll miss a deadline.
Yeah.
You'll forget to check something.
Right.
Standardizing the delivery means that when the email hits at 4 p.m. on Friday, you don't panic. You just trigger the process. It's a system.
It's the checklist manifesto approach. You rely on the system so you don't have to rely on your memory when you're under stress.
And it creates consistency for the client. They aren't sitting there wondering what happens next. They know the steps. That just lowers the blood pressure of the entire transaction.
Which brings us to the final, and I think maybe the most important, confusion killer. Number 5, moving from sales fear to independence. This circles right back to that trust issue, that sales funnel fear.
The choice moment.
I love this phrase. Tell me about the choice moment.
This is the explicit point in the process where the analysis stops and the client takes control of the execution. The firm says, okay, here's the problem, here's the estimated cost range, here's the priority, and then they stop.
They don't say, and sign here to hire our guys.
Never. They say, you can use your own contractor, you can use a referral, you can do it yourself. It's what they call the trust firewall.
That's powerful because if I know you aren't trying to sell me the window replacement, I'm much more likely to believe you when you tell me the window is actually broken.
It ensures the advice is about clarity, not revenue. It purifies the data. When you separate the diagnosis from the treatment, the diagnosis becomes credible. And in a high-stakes deal, credibility is the only currency that really matters.
So if we zoom out, what this methodology is really doing is shifting the focus from just finding defects to managing decisions.
That's the so what
Yeah.
for everyone listening. Whether you are buying a home, running a business, managing a team, information without translation is just noise. We spend so much time gathering data. We read the reports, we download the analytics, but we spend very little time building that translation layer that tells us what the data actually means for our strategy.
We want to be informed, but being informed is useless if you're just paralyzed.
Exactly. You don't need more data, you need a better filter. You need a decision path.
I want to give a practical tip here for anyone listening who might be in the thick of this right now. Maybe you are staring at a PDF that is ruining your weekend. The source material mentions a specific resource called the Concierge Desk.
Yes, if you are drowning in technical jargon, they have a Concierge Desk where you can literally send your report. They don't just read it, they route you into a clarity lane.
I like that term, clarity lane.
It means they assess your specific situation. Are you an investor needing a deal viability analysis? Are you a terrified buyer needing a priority map? Or are you an agent needing that negotiation language? They match the solution to the stakeholder.
So it's like triage for real estate deals.
It's moving from confusion to confidence. And frankly, that is what everyone is actually buying. You aren't buying a house. You are buying the confidence that this house won't ruin you. You're buying a controlled future.
That's a great place to leave it. The lesson today isn't really about termites or roof leaks. It's about recognizing that in any high-stakes environment, your biggest enemy isn't the bad news. It's the inability to process the bad news.
Clarity is power, and systems beat panic every time.
I want to leave you with a thought to mull over this week. Look at the last big decision you really struggled with. Was it because you didn't have enough information, or was it because you had too much information and no way to translate it?
That's the critical question, because information without translation is just noise. And the difference between the two is often whether the deal survives or dies.
Huge thanks to the team at Liaison Consulting for the deep dive material. It has definitely changed how I'm going to read my next inspection report.
Absolutely. Translation is key.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.